So good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, and I currently have 5 friends who all have COVID right now. There's one in Wyoming, and 1, 2, 3, 4 that are here in Texas. One of them is in my current neighborhood. She's a dear friend. She goes around and helps everybody. And she's come down with COVID. I think she's just getting over it, but she said she was just very, very ill. And what I thought I would do today is, because I can't really go in person to any of my friends, but I do keep in contact with them over the phone or, on Facebook, instant message, letting them know that I'm praying for them. And here's a great verse that I just found. I was looking up some good scriptures for if you're battling something right now, and it is in Isaiah 41 verse 10. And God's word says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." God has promised us his strength. So it's always good to pray for others. But I thought one thing I could do for the one person in my neighborhood that is just getting over COVID, and then we had another gentleman right across the street from me end up in the hospital the other day. He just got home. I don't know what's wrong with him. But I'm going to make a double batch of some hamburger meat vegetable soup, and I'm going to take it and leave it on their doorsteps. One is across the street, one is down the street. So I'm going to put some soup on their doorstep for them. And I just want to share a quick and simple recipe of how I make it. I'm sure there's a lot of better ways to make it, but this is good and it's very easy. So please let us know how you're doing. Do you have any current family members with COVID or friends? I've had friends, some dear friends who have passed away. My father has passed away. One of my best friend's fathers has passed away, all from COVID. And it's very devastating. It's very sad. But if there's anything that we can do, is we can pray for one another. And if we have the ability to make something, like I'm going to do that today and drop it off for them to at least help them to recover to where they won't have to cook. I thought that would be a good idea. So again, always, if you have any prayer requests, let us know and we'll be sure to pray for you. Let me show you what ingredients I have. Walk over to the kitchen. So I don't really have a written recipe. I just change this up every time I make it. I have about 2 pounds of hamburger meat, and I'm going to be using both the vegetable broth and beef broth mixture. The seasonings I'll be using are salt, pepper, the Italian seasonings, and Worcestershire sauce. The vegetables I had on hand were some squash and zucchini. I like to use the fresh French beans. I have some peas, hominy, corn. I love the better than bouillon. I have some Rotel tomatoes, garlic, carrots, tomato soup, V8 juice, onions, and potatoes. Since I always start in a small pot and have to move into a big pot, I'm just starting with the big pot, especially since this is going to be a double batch of hamburger vegetable soup. So let me get all of these vegetables chopped up. I'm going to be using about 6 potatoes today. Just going to cut each one in half again, and then into bite-sized pieces. I have a bowl of cold water set aside, and I'm going to put the potatoes in there to keep them from browning. Just like that. Last potato. Sometimes I use shredded carrots, but I just happen to have several bags of carrot sticks, which we use to dip in ranch dressing as snacks. These are real easy to cut up into bite-sized pieces. I'm just placing these into a bowl on the side, so it will be easy to put them straight into the broth. Since this is a double batch, I'm going to use both bags of carrots. The yellow squash and zucchini I have washed, and I'm just cutting the ends off here. Just going to cut these down the lengthwise, I believe, and in half, just like the potatoes. And I will cut these into bite-sized pieces. I'm just going to grab a paper plate because I want to keep them separate from the carrots and potatoes since they will be going in last. I can't wait to get a garden started again where I can plant my own squash. Now the zucchini I'll cut the same way. Cutting everything into like-sized pieces so that they all cook at the same speed. I love using these fresh French beans in my soups. Reminds me of when I was a kid, I would pick them out of the garden. I've washed these, and now I'm just going to snap them, taking the ends off and putting them in with the carrots. Reminds me when we picked from the garden with my grandmother as children and would sit on the front porch and snap green beans throughout the day. Isn't that pretty? I've been watching a lot of cooking videos so that I can learn how to cook, and I've been getting a lot better at chopping my onions in half, peel off the outer edge. Take each onion, cut down the lines, cut it in half, and all your pieces will be even. I could still use more practice, but I'm getting better. Uh-oh. Here comes the fun part.
Oh my God, it's clotted. Oh, God.
This hollandaise smells like burnt rubber. God, it's hot in here.
Look at this. My first day as a woman, I'm getting hot flashes.
Look at that flame. What an idiot.
Better open some windows. I had a flame going over here. Important note. When you have oil in a pan heating up behind you while you're chopping vegetables, keep an eye on it. I almost caught the house on fire. Smoke alarms went off, and luckily there was a lid nearby, and I put out the fire. There was a fire. I'm an idiot, officially. My house is filled with smoke right now. I've got all the windows open and the ceiling fans going. And the pan that was on fire, I took it outside and now I'm washing it, so. This should be a video on how not to make vegetable soup. Don't catch your house on fire.
Alrighty then. Let's see if I can finish this without catching my house on fire. Hamburger meat is all browned, and I'm going to season this now, and then I'll season it again once it goes into the soup. Salt, pepper, Italian seasonings, some peppercorn. I love these Italian herb grinders, they're my favorite. I realized I forgot to chop my garlic, but I just happened to have some minced garlic in the refrigerator. I love this stuff. I'm going to put in the equivalent of 2 to 3 cloves. You can do this to your liking, adding more or less. Mix that in. Smells great.
I want to be sure to drain the grease from this hamburger meat before I put it into this big pot. I have my large pot over a medium to medium-high heat right now. Putting in these diced onions. Give that a quick stir. We'll cook these until they're translucent. This looks real good. I've drained the potatoes from the cold water. We'll put those in first. And then I'm adding my vegetable broth. Remember, this is a double batch, so I'm putting in all 4 cups. The same with the beef broth, all 4 cups. Every last drop. Give that a good stir. Now I love the flavor of the rotel. You can use crushed tomatoes or stewed tomatoes, whatever you have, whatever you like. Probably about 2 tablespoons worth of Worcestershire. Again, this is optional. I love the flavor of it, so I use it quite a bit. My mother gave this to me. I love it. I like adding tomato soup when I make vegetable soup. I do not add any excess water. I just put in 2 cans of tomato soup. Give it a quick stir, blend it together. Now we'll add in the beans and the carrots. I think I did a good job of chopping those carrots. Let's put the lid on that over a medium to medium-high heat, about 20 minutes. This better than beef bouillon also comes in chicken or vegetable. I'm going to add 2 heaping tablespoons. Stir that in and let it dissolve. You can always add more later. Now in with the squash and zucchini. You can use frozen vegetables, but I prefer canned. I rinse them after I drain them just to get rid of that canned taste. You can add any type of vegetable in any amount. I love hominy and the texture it adds to the soup. Add what you want or what you have. Make it the way you like it. I'm going to cover this up. Oh, before we do that, let's add that V8 juice. I love V8 juice. It adds great flavor. I'm going to put in 4 cups. Save the excess V8 juice so that if your soup thickens and you need to add more liquid, add the V8 juice instead of water. It is amazing. Now let's cover that up. Gonna simmer this on medium for about 45 minutes. And it smells so good. Let's dish this up. Amazing.
delicious. Beggar. What do you think about it?
It's excellent. It's probably as good as any you've ever made. The broth is good. And the potatoes are, everything's done.
And what's Ronnie doing?
He's waiting to see if we drop anything.
Ronnie, are you waiting? Of course, our soup is always served nice and hot with a side of beggar. Right, Ronnie?